Hey guys, it is Mission Discover, and welcome back to another episode of The Learning Curve. And today I'm going to be trying the Japanese art form of Gyotaku. If you're not familiar with what Gyotaku is, it's kind of like a more sustainable version of taxidermy developed by Japanese to kind of commemorate some of your catches. You use some basic calligraphy ink and calligraphy rice paper, and using some cool techniques, you're able to make a replica print of the fish that you caught while still being able to use the fish as food. It's a really, really cool idea. I've seen a lot of channels on YouTube try it and have great success. So today we're gonna go through, talk about all the details, and bring you guys along for my learning experience as I try this for the very first time, with the ultimate goal of doing a fish that nobody else has ever done a Gyotaku of. Am I really gonna be able to confirm whether or not someone's done that before? No, but I do wanna do something really unique at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But first, we gotta go out and get some stock trout for our first Gyotaku session. Alrighty, we are here at this cool little park that has a stocked trout stream running through it. I've never been here, but I did a little bit of scouting before the trout season opened, and I saw a ton of them in there, and there's some people down there fishing now, so we should be able to catch some. I think rainbow trout is the perfect fish to start our Gyotaku journey with, because I can catch and keep several of them. They're fairly big, and I think that if I learn how to effectively do the rainbow trout, then that's the type of fish that I can do with Gyotaku frequently, because all throughout the trout season I will catch and keep them. So we're gonna head down there and see what we can do. There's two pallies. That's kind of cool. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's a couple others down there. We'll give it a shot. There's a bunch of them. Alright, unfortunately I lost the spinner. Let's try a little trout worm on a trout magnet jig head. Oh, there's one. Missed him, he came back. There's one. Oh, lost him. Dang. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. Oh. He's messing with it, toying with it. I'm just gonna flip him. There we go. Nice little rainbow. Get him on the stringer. That's gonna be beautiful as a Gyotaku. Sweet. We can keep 5. It'd be pretty cool if we could get a brown in there too. Do both a rainbow and a brown trout. Get him on the stringer. Put him right here. Tie it off. All right, there's one. Gonna try the fly for a little bit. I'm actually gonna watch my fly. I had one come up and take it first cast. I'm getting chasers on the fly. There we go. There's one on the fly. A little brown, I think. Sweet. That's exactly what we wanted. We want the variety. Get up here. Boom. Yeah, nice brown. Now we got 2 different types of trout to try for the Gyotaku. Look at that. Beautiful brown. Look at the nymph right in the side of the mouth. Sweet. Beautiful fish. Let's get him on the stringer. I think keeping these guys on the stringer is going to be absolutely crucial, or keeping them on ice. I think those are going to be important steps, because if you're trying to print their skin, you want to keep them fairly moist and in good condition. So I'm going to try and keep these in the water until right before we leave to make sure I, keep everything in good condition before we start the printing process. All right, I think I'm going to keep rolling with the fly rod because they are absolutely going crazy over the fly. keep going with that and see if we can get another. All right, let's get these trout home. Alrighty, before we head home here, I'm actually going to take a picture of the eyes of these fish. I've seen some cool versions of Gyotaku where you leave the eye without ink on it, and then you actually paint in the eye with accurate colors afterwards. I think that's really cool, and I want to try it, but I need some reference photos. I'm also going to grab my nasty towel from the back of the truck. I'm going to lay the fish flat, make sure there's nothing underneath of them, retain as much normal shape and form as I can, and I'm going to lay this towel over them to try and keep some of the moisture in as we head home and keep the skin in prime condition. All right, we got them set up. I'll see you when we get home. Alrighty, so I'm back home now. As you can see, there's a couple little wrinkles and strange looking marks from the bed of the truck and from them drying out a little bit. When we actually put the ink on, we do want their skin to be dry, but we also don't want them to be crispy, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna quick spray these down with the hose, see if we can get some moisture back in them, and then we'll get them set up for printing. Give them a flip. Alrighty, I've got my two trout just about ready. This brown trout's still a little bit tacky, but the rainbow trout feels pretty good to go. So that's definitely the one I'm going to start with. I'm real quickly going to show you what supplies I have. There's really only two Gyotaku specific items you're going to need, and then everything else is pretty basic stuff that you can get a lot of different places, and a lot of it you probably already have. So as I mentioned, you're going to need some rice paper. It's pretty cheap. This gigantic roll was like 15 bucks, something like that. And you're also going to need some ink. This bottle was also pretty cheap, less than $15 as well. Beyond that, I have a little container for the ink. This is just the bottom of a water bottle. I have some little toothpicks, which I'm going to use to prop the mouth open. I've heard that's really important. And then two basic sponges and a brush that I bought from the dollar store just to apply the ink. I'm not sure which one's going to be better and how I'm going to use both of them, but we're going to find out. Alrighty, so with that, I think I'm going to try and lay out this rainbow trout here. Just like that. Yeah, the skin's nice and dry, but it's not crispy dry. It's just dry to the touch, which I think is exactly what we want to be looking for. So I'm definitely going to do this side. This side has less marks on it. The fins are in a little bit better shape on this side. I think this is going to be really nice. So first thing I'm going to do is prop open the mouth. Just break this little pick. I think I want a little bit less than that. All right, I think that looks nice. That's about the mouth width I'm looking at. Now we got to cut a piece of this rice paper a little bit longer than the length of our fish. All right, do that right there. That's not going to do well. Maybe I'll just rip it and cut the edges later. I think scissors is definitely going to be the move over a knife. Yeah, for round two, I'm definitely going to have to go grab some scissors. I've never opened this ink, so I'm not sure how this is going to go. I guess just pour it in. There you go. A little bit of ink. I'm going to use the bottle to pin it down on the one side and the knife on the other just to hold it still for now. Going to get up out of my chair. I'm going to use the paintbrush to start and essentially just paint this. Both from what I've heard and just using a little bit of logic, it makes sense that I'm not going to want to coat this too heavily, so then it will cover up all the details. We want a light coating, which is kind of why I thought the sponge might be a good idea. But I'm not really sure how light of a coating that actually means just yet. Get everything nice and coated. And then I think I'm going to come back in with the sponge and kind of soak up the excess here. Although the sponge does have a texture in of itself, so I'm not sure if that's going to change the texture of the print at all. A whole bunch of trial right now. I really don't know much of what I'm doing other than the general process. Here we go. I know you're just supposed to sort of press it on. I'm going to kind of push all around, make sure everything kind of touches a little bit. Oh boy. So I got a big blot of stuff right there I obviously didn't get. Also some up in the gill region. That makes sense because those are areas where there'd be a lot of pooling of ink. Also up on this top fin. So I gotta take more time to clear stuff on the fins and the gills, it seems like. We're definitely getting some texture. I'm not sure if it's the right texture, but we're getting something. This rice paper is very supple, as evidenced by the fact that my knife wasn't doing a great job and the scissors are probably going to be a better option. So you can kind of just form it all around. I have no idea what this is going to look like, but I'll show you guys before I get to look at it. And the paper just tore as well. Oh man, this is rough for a first attempt. What does it look like, guys? I have no idea. You guys get to see it first. I mean, it's really not that bad. I mean, there's a tear in it. It's pretty sloppy around the fins and gills, but it's not that bad. You can see a lot of the texture of the scales, which is kind of cool. You can see the lateral line as well. That's pretty sweet. I didn't totally get enough pressure up by the nose. I didn't print everything up there. I'm going to set this one aside, and we're obviously going to try again, but I'm not too upset about that, I don't think. Alright, so I'm going to kind of rub my finger over some of the areas that this paper stuck. Try and get that off, because that will definitely mess with the texture of our fish print. It seems like a lot of this ink actually soaked in, so I wonder if the more times I do this, it's going to get better. Obviously, there's probably a point where that's not true anymore, but yeah, so I'm definitely going to have to be more careful around the gills, the lips, the fins to make sure I don't have excess there, because we definitely had a lot of blotting in those areas. In fact, I'm just cleaning up fins and stuff right now because there's still a lot of pooled up ink there. But I'm just going to try the exact same process again after I go grab a pair of scissors, so that way I can actually cut the roll instead of just kind of tearing it. So I'll be back. It doesn't have to be perfect along the edge. I'm going to kind of trim it up a little bit afterwards anyway. Alrighty. Definitely better than tearing at it. Get all the way up there. I'm going to try and use less ink for the fish overall, because obviously we pooled up in some areas. I'm just going to try and pull some of that stuff that's pooled up in certain spots to the rest of the fish. See if we can get it all done with one brush full of ink. Alright, let's bring out the sponge. See if we can kind of get some of this excess. Pull back this fin, get underneath there, get the backside of that fin, get down by the gills here, up in the crevices of the mouth, in the nooks and crannies all around. Good thing is, because you kind of let the ink absorb in a little bit, the texture of the sponge really doesn't impact anything. You're going to kind of press it down into it and get the texture of the fish anyway. We still had a little bit of ink pooled up in the gills there, and by this back fin. These fins are really giving me some issues. Alright, there's a ton pulled up in the mouth there. Stuff that I can't even see. This is going to be better, but not that much better. I think what I'm going to have to end up doing is kind of painting from back to front, getting the most of the ink here, and really only having a little bit of the brush covered with ink when we do up here, so that way there's not a whole bunch of excess. I think that's going to help us out. But let's see what this one looks like. See if we can peel it off carefully without it ripping. Still not too bad. It's got a lot of slop around the edges and such. I think I've got a way to solve that. I think if we kind of brought the tail up a little bit, that way we wouldn't have all this stuff around the edge getting printed as well. And then don't go quite all the way around the fish, just kind of stop at the midway line. All right, let's put this one aside and try it once more. I'm gonna have to get all up in the business of this mouth, make sure it's all cleaned out. Yeah, there's a ton of ink spilling through the gills onto the other side. Yeah, tons of stuff down in that mouth, so I'm going to have to be really careful around this area. Let's give that a shot. I'm also going to try and prop up our tail with something. I think I might just do this. Do the main body of the fish, all that before we touch the more prone to pull up regions. All right, let's kind of clear that brush off a little bit. You definitely don't need a lot of ink. You can go a long way with a little ink. So try that off. Spread the rest of this around. I can definitely tell there's a lot less pulled up. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but this is a long way from where we were a couple minutes ago. All right, I think we're in a decent spot. So I'm going to give it a shot. Print number 3 with the rainbow trout. No major pooling up anywhere. I'm going to move the sponge back, give support to the tail fin. I think this one might be pretty decent. Let's see what we did. We gotta peel it carefully. Alright, so the tail fin's a little bit light, but we definitely made some huge progress on our pooling issue. We also need a little bit more ink up in this region, but there's still actually a lot of ink right there. I think we just didn't press hard enough. I think one more good effort and we should have a solid print of a rainbow trout. So let's give it one more try. Alrighty, here we go again. I think I'm going to use a little bit more ink to avoid lackluster print of the tail. I'm going to do this tail earlier in the process. Get the whole body, avoiding the fins and any nooks and crannies for the time being. Now get this cheek, get rid of any excess. Don't make it too dry though, which is what I think we did on the last one. A little bit of overcorrection. Alright, I think I'm going to use a little bit of sponge just to clean up some stuff, but I think we should be okay. Especially in the gill region. I think there's a little bit more than we need. Alright, I think that's a good happy medium between the amount we had before and what we did on the last one. I'm seeing a lot of texture come through. That's nice. Alright. Okay, that's definitely our best one yet. I'm pretty happy with that. Few little touch-ups, and that should be really nice. I'm ready to move on to the brown trout. Alrighty, so the brown trout actually doesn't have a fin on this side. So I'm going to do the other side for the brown trout, which means we're going to flip this like that. Set him up like that. Try to pin our mouth. Alright, that's nice. He's got a little bit of wrinkles in the skin, but nothing too bad. Flare out these fins a little bit. Let's see how good of a print we can get on this guy with one attempt. If we can nail it on the first attempt, I think we made a lot of progress. Here we go. All right. Get some ink on this fish. Whoa, that was a lot of runoff. This one's got some nice texture to it. Get this tail fin. This gill is much more closed than the rainbow trout, meaning I don't think we're going to have quite as much issue with stuff pooling there. Alrighty, getting close here. Couple around these fins, make sure we don't have any pooling. Alright, I think we're ready. This should go a lot better than our first rainbow trout attempt. Little blotch right there. Nothing super concerning yet. Little wrinkle in the paper, we don't want that. Little blotch by the nose. What I'm starting to figure out is it seems like, just based upon my initial impressions of this print here, that every fish is a little bit different, and the places where it's going to kind of blot up are a little bit different. You got to be able to identify them, and they're not necessarily going to be the same in every fish. All right. There we go. Not a half bad brown trout. I have limited time here. I think with a couple touch-ups, that's a perfectly acceptable brown trout attempt. Obviously, I think later down the road, I'm going to get some other opportunities to try a rainbow trout and a brown trout. But I think for now, that's going to be the end of our first Gyotaku session. I'll see you guys when we have a different type of fish with some different types of challenges to try and print up. Alrighty, we're out here for the next part of our Gyotaku journey. I'm out here fishing for grass carp with some bread, and I've had a couple bycatches, including bluegill and trout. I wasn't anticipating on keeping any fish today, but unfortunately we did have a trout, that guy right there, swallow the hook, and he is not going to make it, so we're going to end up keeping him. And alongside him, I am going to try and catch some of these big bluegill that are in here. They love the bread, so we're just gonna use this tiny hook, put a little bit of bread on there, and catch a bluegill. I think this is gonna be another good species to try Gyotaku with. Super easy to catch, so I can track my progress over time as I do more bluegill and sunfish type fish in the future. And they're definitely a lot different. They're flatter, they've got a more scaly body. After we have these two under our belt, I think we're going to be prepared to move to something that, you know, there's not much information on. I'm gonna try and do a really unique species after we do these bluegill. Hopefully it goes a little bit better than those trout did. It's a little bit smoother, and we've made some progress. But we gotta catch a bluegill real quick. Should take no time at all. Oh, missed him. I broke off, no way. Obviously it took no time at all to get the bite, but I gotta retie. Couple trout in there as well. Don't really want those. I want a bluegill. Fight for it. Oh, trout got it. No. We don't want you. You might be gut hooked again. Finding them on the ultralight versus the medium power rod is crazily different. Come in here. Yoink him up in here. Hopefully you didn't swallow the hook. Get back in there. Hey. All right, attempt number 3. Come on, bluegill. Yep, yep, yep. Oh my gosh. Took the bait. Took the bait. There's a couple grass carp out there. Bluegill, bluegill. Swallow it, swallow it. Oh, lost him. There we go. That's a bluegill. I want a sizable one to do for the Gyotaku. That's not going to be big enough for my liking. Not going to be big enough. Okay. Oh, I like the size of you. There we go. That's a good one. Yeah, that's the kind of bluegill we want. Oh, he's stuck in the grass. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's the one we want. Look at that one. That is a big, big bluegill. Nice. Ho ho ho. Yeah, that's the size we want. All right, there's that guy. That's a decent one. Not quite the size I'm looking for. All right, well, I guess we're just gonna use the one bluegill. I don't want to waste all my bread that I'm trying to use for grass carp, but that's a good sized bluegill. So we're gonna rock and roll with that fish right there. And yeah, I'll see you guys back at the house when it's time to do this fish up. All right, I've got the mostly thawed out bluegill that we took out of the freezer and put in the fridge last night. The idea is that by doing this, it will A, keep the meat fresh, and B, make it so that the fins are kind of rigid, and when I kind of pull them out to do the print, they'll stay in place for me without having to do pinning. Another technique that you can use, which I didn't do in the last section, is pinning them out and then chucking it in the freezer for half an hour to kind of get that same effect. But I think this might actually be a little bit easier and a little bit more logical since I wanted to preserve the meat anyway. But we got to test it out. Another new technique I'm going to try is actually washing off the fish, trying to get all the slime off before printing it, which would theoretically make it a little bit more consistent and a little bit easier to get good definition in the print. We're going to have to use a good old princess bucket for this process because my 5-gallon bucket from Ace is outside filled with the tailings from gold panning. So yeah, this is our option right now. We're going to rock with it and then see if we can get this fish washed off with some soap and water in the princess bucket. Alrighty, got a couple pumps of dish soap in there. Gonna kind of froth that up with the hose. There we go, that's what we're looking at. Now I'm going to remove our bluegill. Yeah, he is slimy. Let's not have that fly away. Yeah, hold on here. Let's see how this works. I've never done this to a fish before. This is weird. Another round. I can feel it coming off. The fins are actually what hold the most slime, surprisingly enough. Yes, it's those ridges, but they are taking more time to get the slime off than any of the rest of the body here. Rinse them off one more time. Now I'm gonna go grab some paper towels and try and get this fish super dry. Paper towels acquired. Kind of specifically target all those areas we found in the last video up underneath the gills. Definitely get there. In the pockets by the pectoral fins right here. This whole process is also super unique for anybody like me who likes to work on identifying fish, because you have a really up-close personal view of the anatomy of these fish and how all the fins look and all the different rays and ray counts. It's kind of cool. Alright, so one of the other things that I heard, which I definitely didn't do, I heard this on one of Zachary Fowler's videos, is that, for lack of better terms, the butthole sometimes will squirt a little water. Make sure you spend some time soaking up that area, just like that. No funny business. We're just making sure that the butthole's all safe and sound here. Alright, we're getting close to a good dry fish. Alrighty, we are back again. Get the fish laid out on a piece of paper towel, just like that. We're ready to roll. Let's get working here. Got our cup, got our ink. This should go smoother because I've done this before. As we know, a little bit goes a long way. It's hard to tell exactly how much a little bit is when you're first starting, but that should do three prints for us. Need our sponges. I'm going to select the blue sponge as our sponge that we put under the fins, which I actually thought about doing this last time. Given that, I actually want to cut our sponge into maybe 3 pieces so that it can efficiently hold up as many fins as possible. So I'm going to do that right now. We're going to splay out our fins. Got that fin. That one likes to kind of fold back up. There we go. This fin. I think I can do the tail fin just pressing down on the piece of paper towel. I also learned this last time. We should probably replace the paper towel after each print just to make sure that we don't get any extra residue, which honestly just makes sense, but you don't like fully realize these things until you do it. And then one sponge up here under the dorsal fin area. Alright, I'm going to also grab a little piece of towel so that I can support some areas with my finger without getting my finger dirty. Let's rock and roll. As we know, the first print isn't going to be as good as the subsequent prints because the fish kind of soaks some stuff up. I've heard that before, and we learned that from experience last time we did this. But, just like last time, we gotta get out our paper. We're gonna cut it here. Paper has been cut. Get our brush, in some ink, and we're gonna go down the fish. Get it in there. Also don't want it to get blotchy. We're gonna need to use our little paper finger that I made. Alright, I gotta be careful here. Actually, this is a good idea. I'm going to go crazy, get ink all over the paper towel right here, and then I'm going to replace a piece of paper towel under the fin. And then this, I can lift it up off of, where's our paper finger? We're learning. I can lift it up off of the sponge and lay it onto the sponge because I don't want to get the sponge dirty because I'm going to use that for other prints as well. So we're going to go like this. We can get our paper finger dirty. I don't care about that. Do this. Cool. So the whole fish, except for right there, now the whole fish is evenly coated with ink. I'm going to take off my paper finger, put it over there. I'm going to rip off a small section of paper towel, and I'm going to replace it under this fin. Replace under the fin. I like the paper finger. This was a good idea. Manipulate this fin out like that. Paper time. Here we go. Obviously, your first one's probably not going to be as good. We already know that. Here we go. No, the wind. All right. It might be a little messed up because of the wind, but it's our first print anyway. I had a little bit of water blotchiness up by the face, even though I tried so hard to not have it. I think overall the bluegill is probably going to be easier than the trout because it has all these scales, so you can get good definition really easily. The backsides of all these scales also seem to be catching water. So this first print might be like a sacrificial one just to get all the water out. I mean, I don't think it's going to be terrible. I also don't think it's going to be good. So, Let's see what we are working with here. You guys will see it before me. We definitely have a blotch. I don't think it's that good. I can see it from the backside. I'm gonna flip it around. I mean, you can tell what it is. Definitely some blotchiness, even though we tried super hard to not have any. The tail fin looks fantastic. There's a gap between this fin, blotchiness up by the face. This fin, we didn't print so well, but I think I can fix all of those problems. Any areas that were blotchy, we're gonna wipe them down. It's almost like there's more water appearing because I definitely wiped these spots and got them like completely dry. It's probably just shifting around. So now there's ink absorbed into the fish. We got a better chance here on this second print. This print isn't terrible. It really isn't. But we can definitely do better. Sacrificial paper towel for the under the tail actually worked really well. I like that idea. All right, that'll fit nicely. Scissors go on top of that. I've got this fin kind of positioned in one of the crooks of the sponge here, and that will keep it out. This one I'm gonna kind of just wedge. I'm gonna be especially careful to spread out the ink up by the top of the fish. Paper finger time. Sacrificial paper towel underneath. No, a little bit of blotchiness under that fin. Man, I thought I got it. I think it's going to be better than the last one. I still don't think I'm going to be like happy with it per se. The tail fin is printing beautifully though. That's what we're looking like. It looks better from the backside, but huge blotch by that fin it looks like. Honestly, that's pretty doggone good. We still have a little bit of gap up in that fin there. Trying to figure out how to remedy that. A lot less blotching on the face, but some on the body. Let's fix that. The problem is that when you splay out this fin, it comes away from the body. So it's not just splaying it out, it's also splaying it up, which is something I don't necessarily want. Let's get some ink. Let's try this. I haven't been using the sponge all day. Maybe I should up by the face and by that fin. I'm gonna actually leave the face up past the gill plate relatively untouched. Go at it with the sponge here in a sec. All right, that's looking nice. Let's go at the fins here for a second. There's a little bit of water down in there, a little bit of pooling. Let's get rid of you. All right, cool. Cool. Sponge the whole body real quick just to get any extra. This fin wants to move. Stay put. We didn't cut our paper. Rookie move. Hold on. All right, hold on. Paper's cut. Sacrificial piece under the tail fin. Boom. And print. There's a little bit of blotchiness, but nothing huge. No! By this fin! I swore I had it. No way. Well, at the very least, we know all our tactics with trying to get the fins to print nicely worked. I'm going to do the same exact thing, but more time spent trying to get this fin in proper order. It's all pulled up down here, man. Where does it keep coming from? There's water down in there now, too. I actually don't understand where it keeps coming from. Try again. What I am actually going to do, just because it's the only fin that won't stay in place, and if I do it right, it will be practically invisible. I am going to pin out this fin. Alrighty, I cut a needle in half so it won't go all the way through the sponge. Use the back side of that. It just wants to pull up and away. This is going to be like impossible. Oh, okay, I got a strategy. If we go kind of a little crooked and cant it away from the way it's pulling, it should stay. Oh, look at that. Physics, man. But, all right, that stays. The fish has been sitting here drying in the sun for a couple minutes as I went and got that. This is a good opportunity. Let's give it a shot. Sacrificial towel out. This is our best opportunity yet. We're gonna stay away from the face until we need it. Uh-oh, our pin and our plastic bag are moving. That's okay, I know how to do it now. Come on, please. Less blotching. Oh my gosh, this fin isn't blotching. Hold on, hold on. This fin didn't print. Why? Dang it. Hold on. But like, other than that fin printing, that's our best one yet. It's gotta be. Look at that. Look at that. We got a system down. The next one is the one, I'm telling you. Next one's the guy. This is way different from the trout printing. Way different. Same thing, same process. Get that fin to print. Here we go. Ooh. I'm liking things I'm seeing. I'm not going to get excited yet. If something starts blotching, then just stop pressing on it. That's what I'm figuring out. You can kind of save it. I have a couple little rips, but they're not like ripping through the paper. So once I put them in the frame, if this turns out, it won't really be a problem whatsoever. Yeah, baby. Oh, that's it. Look at it. That's our bluegill print, people. That's the one. That is the one right there. All the others pale in comparison. Good fin detail. Pretty much good everything. I'm happy with that. Taking it. That's it. All these other ones, frankly, like especially like this one, not bad. This one's our worst one. We had some spots where it just didn't print at all, very blotchy, but like overall, none of them were like atrocious. I could have used any of them in some capacity and I would have been like, all right, that's acceptable. But this one's real nice, real good. Yeah, let's take this inside and go learn how to paint the eyeballs and frame up some prints. And then we'll get going on to our final mission on doing our very unique type of fish. Alrighty, so I had some frames come in. I'm going to do a little cutting work and frame up all three of our prints that we think are good. And then what I'm going to do is take some of our bad prints, which I kept solely to show you guys the progression over time as we get better. And I'm going to use those to practice painting the eyes. I guess that's a little hot tip there. Keep your bad prints as long as they have the facial structure and the eyes intact. You can paint the eyes and get a good idea of what they'd look like before doing it on your final print. I think doing that should give me some good insight, and I can share what I learned with you guys before I go ahead and do the final eye painting and finish up these first three Gyotakus. So let's get to work. Alrighty, so there are like three things that I learned throughout that process that I think would have been helpful to know. Not major, but I'm going to share them with you anyway. First of all, if you're labeling something, signing your fish printing, whatever you're going to do, don't do it with Sharpie. I learned that the hard way. Additionally, there's two cutting techniques that I think would be valuable to know. First of all, because this stuff is so flimsy, almost like tissue paper, it's kind of along those lines. If you try and cut with the back, that one did fine, but sometimes if you try and cut with the back of the scissors, it will start to fold, especially in a spot where it's already folded. Like that started to do it. It will start to fold before it actually starts cutting. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to rip it. And similarly, because the stuff is so supple, if you cut and then you need to reposition. Be very careful to put it in there straight, because as you can see, the back of those scissors there are too wide and it starts pushing it apart, and then it will actually rip it. I had to deal with some of that on my first one that I was doing because I didn't realize that. Once I got that under control, it was all a-okay. Now I'm gonna do some practice on some of these other paintings to see if I can learn how to do the eyes, and then when I feel comfortable, which will probably be tomorrow morning, I'm gonna try and do it on these three that I have ready to roll. All right, y'all, we did some experimentation with the acrylics to see how that would work for painting the eyes, and I came to the conclusion that the colors were too bright, too saturated, not subtle enough to go along with the Gyotaku, so I switched gears to start learning how to do watercolors instead, which is the typical method for painting eyes if you do it on your Gyotakus. I did have some footage of me trying this out for the very first time and talking to you guys about what I was learning. However, I unfortunately lost that footage. But I do remember what I figured out and the big takeaways that got me comfortable with using watercolor for the eyes. So we're just going to rerun that and show you right now. Alrighty, so first things first, when you are watercoloring the eye, you need to get a feel for how much paint to how much water you're going to use, especially with this rice paper. The rice paper, as we've mentioned before, super thin and it likes to soak up water, so you want to be a little bit heavier on the paint, or else it's going to bleed all over the place. It's definitely a medium that takes a little bit more skill than the acrylics do. So I'm just going to start with something simple, like some yellow here. We want to mix that in pretty good here. Get a little bit thicker paint so that you can control it. You can always add more water, but adding more paint when you already have some pooled up water there is just going to make it bleed more. You want to start heavier on the paint. At least with this type of paper, that's what I figured out. All right, so that's probably good. We're just going to paint in these little circles here. As you can see, that stays in place. It's not spreading out because I have more paint. I could even go a little bit more there. What I like to do is get it to the consistency where when I paint it on the paper, it actually will cover up what's behind it. So we could even go a little bit more than that. You can either have it more watery and it'll soak into the paper, you can still see what's behind it, or you can have it more thick paint and it'll actually sit on top of the paper. You don't want to go too thick, but something like that, that's pretty good. So paint that whole area. You don't want to do too many layers without letting it dry in between, because it is water-based, so it will just saturate that paper. Things will start to bleed, and all your different colors and strokes will just start to melt together, so you don't want to do that either. Here, I'll show you. It's wet here, so when I add that paint, it's actually going to spread out and bleed outside the lines. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's already doing it a little bit. Check that out. It's expanding. But if we do this one here, start in the middle, work it out. You got a lot of water in the brush right now. Just kind of let that settle. That's kind of what we're looking for right there. Then you want to let that almost fully dry before you try and do anything else. Set your base color. You can mix, go back to elementary school, use your color theories, and just kind of put stuff together, get the colors you want. Try stuff out on a spare piece of paper. Once you have your base, let that dry before you try and actually put the pupil of the eye in there. Do not rush it. It will mess you up, I promise. All right, this should be dry here. Just going to rinse out our brush a little bit. And then we're going to take our black. Use very little water to get it going, because you want this super, super thick. You don't really want this to be see-through at all. You want this to pop for sure. There you go. Maybe even a little bit thicker. A lot of this is just general watercolor technique, and I'm not an artist, so I don't know much of this stuff. But a trick I learned is if you want it to be thicker, take some of the paint instead of water and go to a fresh spot in your little brick of paint and use that to mix it around. It'll just continue to concentrate it even more. There you go, that's not bad. So start in the middle, just make a little dot. This is just shaping of the eye. No matter what kind of drawing or painting technique you use to do these eyes, you're going to have to kind of follow this procedure. Start with a little dot. It just kind of looks like it's staring at you right now. Doesn't have a lot of character to it. And then start to shape it backwards you want it to be kind of round and fat at the back, and then just draw a triangle forwards. And because it's watercolors, it'll kind of spread out naturally, kind of round itself. Should be thinner at the front. They're almost all fish eyes are kind of either teardrop shaped or lips shaped. So some form of doing what I just did there should do really well. And that right there is a fish eye. Nothing super complicated, but you have to understand that this paper is super thin and that you are using water that'll just make things spread. Be aware of how much paint versus how much water you're using, and you should be all right. I'm no real artist, but I was able to figure this out and get good eyes on all of my fish prints. So with this newly acquired skill, combined with our framing techniques from earlier, here are the final results of our 3 prints to start out this video. I think they turned out pretty phenomenally for them being my first 3 prints I've ever done. And now that I'm feeling comfortable with all the techniques needed, we're ready to do something a little bit different. This one should be fun. Alright y'all, we've now made it to the point in the video where I used the culmination of all of my learning so far to try and do something a little bit outside the box. I mentioned at the start of this video that the finale was going to be trying to make a Gyotaku out of a type of fish that I don't think anybody else has done before. So to get that process started, we're here at this creek behind me for a little tiny fishing mission, a little tiny one. We're going for some microfish today. The eventual plan is to catch a couple different types of small microfish, probably shiners. My target species are common shiner, spot fin shiner, and satin fin shiner. If I can get those, I think they'd turn out really well. They've got a really good scale pattern that even on a little tiny fish, I think is gonna come through nicely in the print. So that's what I'm aiming for. But obviously I don't know what we're gonna catch, so I'll have some flexibility. And I wanna print a school of fish. I'm looking for about 3, which is why this one's gonna be a little bit tough. I'm gonna have to print a couple different versions of one fish and then go back and print those other 2 on there later, meaning the margin of error is super small. If I get number 1 and 2 done effectively, I still have to get the 3rd one done effectively to have my successful print. So there's a little bit of risk involved, but hopefully our learning will have paid off and we'll be able to figure out how to do this even on this small scale. I've got the ultralight with me, as well as a bucket to put the fish in. So let's get down there and get to work. Oh yeah, right down there, there's a whole big school of little shiners and a couple baby suckers on the bottom as well. The objective of this Gyotaku that I'm trying to do here today is to replicate kind of what I'm seeing there, a little school of those fish. So I think dropping in there and getting a couple of those on the board would be a good start. Let's get rigged up and get in there. Alrighty, I got a little tiny split shot on there with a size 30 hook and a little piece of gulp alive worm. Gonna toss it in there and see what grabs it. Oh, just had one. I think that was one of our targets as well. Oh, had him again. So tough to keep these little guys on the line. There you go. Oh, he landed right here. That's one of the ones we want. That's a common shiner, I believe. Yeah, a little baby common shiner. That's awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. Fill it up. All right, toss them in there. One fish successfully acquired for the little school of fish Gyotaku. There's a couple different types of shiners down there. It'd be really cool to get more than one type. Oh, bluegill, don't want him. We already did your super big cousin in the previous section of the video. Oh, there you go. That's another, is that a common? Oh no. I think we got ourselves another little common. Keep him in here. One of the reasons I'm keeping them in the bucket is so that I can decide which ones I want when I'm done. And then I'll keep them for catfish cut bait once I'm done using them for the prints. Obviously, I'm not going to let any of this go to waste. See a big black-nosed dace down there, that'd be sweet. Oh, I got him. I think that's him. Or is this a big chub? Oh no, he's a big chub. Should we keep a creek chub? I feel like he wouldn't be that interesting as a print, so I'm gonna toss him back. Although I could print him and then do that nice cool stripe. So I think I just changed my mind. We're gonna keep a creek chub. Toss him in there. There we go, got something. What are you? Another good-sized creek chub. We'll just keep the little guy, not you. We have 3, so we could do it with what we got now. But if I could get 3 different species in the same print, all from the same pool, kind of just replicating the exact natural environment, that'd be pretty sweet. So something other than a common shiner or a creek chub would be really nice. What's that? Oh, he came off. I think that might have been a spot fin or a satin fin. Darn it. There you go, got something. Creek chub again. Oh, we got a shiner. Are you a common? Another common. No, I think that's a common, but that's a better specimen than the littler guy I have in there, so. Put you in there. Okay. Oh, that's awesome. A Cutlips minnow. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. We can have him sitting on the bottom, the creek chub in the middle, and our shiner on top. That's a good little catch. I think we've got our 3 specimens. I'm gonna release the other common shiners, pick the best one, and then head home with our finds and get to work on this Gyotaku. All right, y'all, it's now time to give it a shot for our final Gyotaku of the video. Obviously, this is gonna be an interesting one. These fish are way smaller than I've done before. These are species that people really haven't done before, and I'm trying to do 3 of them at the same time. So given the difference in the setup, I'm actually gonna put you guys on the head mount to get you an up close and personal view of what I'm doing. So hopefully you can see these tiny little fish better, and we're just gonna give it a shot. Alrighty, so first things first, we have our fish here, and I've actually been preserving these guys, kind of using that same method we did for the bluegill. I flash froze them. As soon as I got them home that first day, I put them in the freezer because I knew I wasn't going to be able to use these guys for at least a week. It's actually been over 2 weeks now. But yeah, I flash froze them and then I let them thaw for the entire day yesterday, kind of slow thaw them back out, and they look pretty darn good. They're preserved pretty well. First things first with these preserved fish. So we're gonna come over here. I got wrenches holding down everything to make sure that they don't blow away, but we're gonna take some paper towel and we are going to lay them out here. And we're gonna tear off this piece. Just get them de-slimed a little bit. That is odd. I'm not sure what to think of that. Their slime's now orange, or at least the slime of the creek chub is. It's a little bit weird, but that's okay. The slime of the Cutlips is also orange. The shiner isn't. That's weird. Get behind these wee little fins up underneath these gills. This is going to be the hard part, is just getting a clean print when I'm not actually fully able to clean them off in the same way I would on a bigger fish. Just let those air dry while we prep some other things. Let's get our ink in our little dish. My general plan here is to use some of these scraps. I cut out these 6, which we're using a 4x6 frame, a little guy. I cut out
little pieces with extra border and a drawn box that has the size that we're actually going to need to fit in the frame. So I know I need to fit whatever work I do into that box, and then these are all the scraps from that. I'm going to use these scraps to do our initial prints so we don't waste these. If you guys know from our previous prints that we've done in this video, the first one is really where it absorbs ink and shows you where you need to work on, and then from there you can start doing your like actual prints. The first one's almost always a dud, but it gives you some good information and helps the fish absorb some ink so it's ready to go in the subsequent printings. All right, so I need to go grab that bag. I feel like we might end up, because these are so small, sponging them all. Like, I might not even touch the brush. Put some ink on all of them. We're gonna scrap this paper towel, but put some ink on all of them. Move them over to a clean spot on the paper towel, grab a little scrap, and do a print just to see what these would turn out like in the current state of affairs. See what work I need to do, get that ink absorbed in. So here's what a cut lips would look like. Oh my goodness, that really is not that bad. I really have no idea what to expect for doing stuff this tiny, because as I said, nobody does this. Nobody does Gyotakus this tiny. It's a rare thing kind of in general, but nobody does stuff this small. So my expectations were non-existent. I had no idea what I was walking into here. Let's see what this shiner looks like. I feel like I have a little too much ink on him, but yeah, I definitely do. All right, so I do actually have a gauge on how much ink I need, because I did identify that that shiner had too much. But like the profile looks nice. We got to get those fins involved. Use a little less ink, but like that tail fin, the profile's looking good. I mean, the cut lips is phenomenal already. I'd be happy with that. Got those two. Let's see what our chub looks like. That's probably the right amount of ink. Let's see if my assessment's right. Okay. All right, the chub is not terrible. This is gonna be difficult, I'm telling you that right now, but I think it's doable. We need to try and splay these fins out. So I did bring along some foam here that I'm gonna use to kind of pin the fish up, get their fins splayed out a little bit. Gotta cut some cavities out for these fish. Let me do that and I'll get back to you. Alrighty, I got some little foam pieces cut out for the fish here. I've seen other people do Gyotakus with this technique, but it's typically for larger fish just to hold them in place. I've never really felt a need for that, but for these little guys, I need as much help as I can get. It's definitely not going to fix my troubles here, but we are gonna use whatever advantage we can get here. I think the easiest one to do is gonna end up being the shiner. So I'm gonna bring these guys over here, and I'm gonna start with our shiner, do him with ink, put him here, and then we're going to try and get a print on each one of these. He's gonna be our fish up at the top. And then once I have a print on each of these, we're then gonna try and print probably the chub on each of these, and then we're gonna print the cut lips on each of these, and we're gonna pick out the best combination. We'll see how it goes. Alrighty, first things first, get some ink on them. Spread out that fin. Get some ink there. Lay them in the little holder here. Once we get them in, we're gonna have to do some adjustments. Yeah, this is gonna be difficult, I can tell you that right now. A lot of this ink is absorbing right now, so we'll give them another coat carefully. Try not to get our foam. All right, get our fingers as clean as possible. This guy is gonna go at the top. That is not atrocious. That's something that I can actually work with. So we'll That's okay. And then simple as can be, we're just gonna put more ink on and do it again. I'm gonna do it 6 straight times. Hopefully that means we can get a flow going with it. If we can get that little flow going, that'd be great, because maybe that means we'll end up with a better result. Get used to printing each individual fish. This is how we're gonna do it. 6 straight attempts per fish. I'm pretty sure this one's better. I'm not sure, but just put them in the pile and keep going. That one's not bad. Keep rolling. Ooh, that one's pretty good. I like that. I'm gonna have to do some adjustment to any of these. You know, that's kind of how it works. Do some little detail work. I'm gonna try and do one without the foam, see how it turns out. Ooh, that was close. Okay. I wonder if I could just get a piece of foam under the fin. It'd be hard because of how small these things are. That's the way I've been doing it on those bigger fish, and it's been turning out really well. We'll try that right underneath the fin. Okay. Now I'm essentially going to order these from best to worst. I think this one's pretty good. I don't like this one at all. That one's last. None of these are terrible per se, but the first 3 are definitely the best. So we're gonna roll with that. And we're gonna flip them over. So we're doing the last one first, kind of like as we get warmed up, then we can do our attempt on the more successful ones. Don't want to scrap a good one by doing a bad print of something else. All right, so we're gonna do the chub next. Chub has a little bit finer scales here. Okay. That's way better. Still not great, but quite a bit better. I need to have it more diagonal so I can fit more of it in the frame. Well, like it's all fit in the frame, but I want it a little bit better arranged, and I need to get that fin to pop through, and then we're in a good spot. Okay, so here's the plan. Can I roll it to do that? Yeah, I think I can. We're gonna do this guy without the foam, and we're gonna try and roll him to get dorsal fin to pop through. Okay, that was definitely better. I had a little bit of smudging down here that I needed to take care of, and I didn't. And then that fin rolling worked, and I put him a little too far over. Okay, we're getting info. Okay, this is where the good ones start. So what I'm learning is I don't like the foam, like at all. I've started with the foam and abandoned it on both of the last 2 print attempts. Like both of the last 2 fish, that is. We're just gonna roll without it from here on out because I don't seem to like it very much. A little bit of stomach smudge again, but that's usable. Wonder if I can get a mark for where that fin is. Right there. And I've got the 3 lines, so I can just continue that with a paintbrush. Just like extend that. This one's usable. Like I could use this one. So there we go. They're a little close together up at the top, but that's not bad. Get our lines for the fin. Don't go anywhere. Because I can lay the fish this way back on top. I don't like doing that in general, just for, because you have no feel of what's going on. But I can lay it this way back on top without actually touching anything, just kind of tip that fin forwards and get a mark for the fin. I think that's a good move for these smaller fish. All right, we're good. It's got a smudge, dang it. But it's not too bad. Like, I can still use that. All right, let's get a mark for this fin. Let's take a look at what we got over here. I think there's two of them that are really good. This one's pretty good. And I could put the cut lips here and then like actually paint like a little bottom. That would look cool. We could do that, so he's usable. This one's usable, but I don't love it. We're gonna throw it in the mix though. This one's definitely usable. This one, no, we're gonna scrap that one. This one, sure, we'll throw it in the mix. Don't like it as much. And then this one we're gonna scrap. So we got 4. Using what I learned from the previous 2, we are not gonna use the foam. I guess it's a personal preference thing. As I said, I know people use it and I know a lot of people like it. I have not been liking it. We just gotta get that fin to sit up, and then we can do that. We can either get it, that one likes to sit up, so we might just be able to print that straight up, or we can kind of carefully get a mark for it. As long as we get the tip, we can use something real fine to just continue those lines down to the base. All right, here we go. Just get some ink on them. It is weird, this scale and skin pattern of the cut lips, the texture or whatever it is, reacts to the ink really well. That might be why our initial print was so good on this guy. This guy might actually be the easiest one to do, even though he's so tiny. It seems to react really well to the ink. All right, so we got this guy, not bad. Let's use one of our poorer ones. We'll go with this guy first. Very light printing. Okay, so that's not gonna be it, but that's good information. A little splotchy, not bad. Let's get our fin mark. There you go. I am almost viewing this as a practice round here, so one more practice round before this guy, which is the one I really want to work out. If it doesn't, we can make the other ones work, but that one's looking really nice so far. So if we can get that one to work, that would be fantastic. Ooh, that's not bad. I can work with that one. So if this one is bad, I can use this one. That's comforting. It's kind of stressful because I really, really, really want that one to work. That's actually looking really good through the paper. Oh yes, baby. All right, let's not mess up the fin. Yes, that's good. That's really nice. Okay, I can definitely use that. That's our one right there. It took all this work just to get this one print that's good, but that's it. I'm gonna like kind of paint the bottom of the creek here, touch up everything up here, frame it, and that'll look really, really doggone cool. We got a common shiner, a creek chub, and a cut lips minnow in that one. That's super sweet, man. We got some cleanup to do, but there it is. After getting that really nice print, it was time for painting, framing, and putting on the finishing touches. The first thing I did was some minor touch-ups with watercolors and a pen. I've kind of already alluded to this, but a very important skill that I developed over these prints was the ability to do subtle touch-ups. You don't want to do too much or else it will be obvious, but having the ability to fix some things really took my prints to the next level.
By the way, I don't totally recommend doing touch-ups in pen. Their coloring can be pretty bold and it doesn't match perfectly, and they can also bleed if you don't do it right. In addition to these touch-ups, I also tried something new. That is not just using watercolor for the eyes, but also making the coloration of the fish with watercolors. Continually experimenting and trying new things is something I really enjoy doing, especially with something artistic like this. And with the key skills that I developed throughout this video, such as getting to know my mediums, nailing my process and organization, and learning how to recognize and diagnose challenges in the printing process, I was able to put it all together and get a print that I was very, very happy with. I really enjoyed filming this video. This is definitely something I'm going to continue to do in the future. I learned a lot. I hope you guys did as well. If you did learn something or just enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate you hitting the like button and possibly subscribing if you haven't, because I've got more informational and educational outdoor content just like this coming your way real soon. So with that being said, God bless, and I'll see you next time.